Another thing that's in safe harbor policy is dual signatures on checks over $1,000. This makes it a lot harder for one person to issue an unauthorized check of any size. It won't stop forgery, but remember, we're only able to achieve reasonable assurance. Coupled with the review and reconciliation process, however, it's very difficult to get away with such things for very long. And after an earlier conference, I had a person come up after I had finished speaking and with a question. And they explained to me that they used dual signature checks and had for a long time. And I thought, well, good. This is a very good sign. Then a person said, I need to make sure I'm doing this correctly. And they explained that they were one of the signatories on the account. And for the other signatory, they had a rubber stamp in their desk. Not exactly what we had in mind. Another point is to separate the banking and the reports or receipts processing system. And I know sometimes this gets difficult for committees with very small staff. But you don't want to have the same person who's opening the mail and dealing with the checks and the cash and whatever shows up in the mail have access to all those funds once the deposits are done. Again, separation of duties. And the final point, small one, committees who use petty cash funds, set it up on an impress basis so that the petty cash receipts that are in the till and the cash always add up to a constant number and then replenish to bring the balance back up to that constant number. Now, those are bare bones preventative measures. Committees are encouraged to go further and to work with a professional on making sure their systems are protected. But as I said earlier, these minimum precautions would have prevented or detected many of the schemes that we've seen. Now, there are a few other things that a committee needs to do if the worst happens. You notify law enforcement, notify the FEC, and you can start with your reports analyst, and file amended FEC reports to correct a public record. And the Commission will take into account some, if not all, of these precautions. If some are there and some aren't, and they'll make a decision on a case-by-case basis. Now, the other document, Internal Controls and Political Committees, is the free advice document. And on the screen are some of the suggestions that come from that document. Again, many of these things are common sense precautions that may or may not be applicable to a particular committee. But there are a couple others I'd like to go through as well. Limit the number of people who have check signing authority. 2 is probably a minimum, but add others only if you need it. And when someone leaves or changes position within the organization, remove them from the account promptly. Be very careful with debit and credit cards, especially the ability to withdraw cash. We have seen some cases where that didn't work out very well for the committee. A hint from our experience, don't use the ATM machine at the casino in the next state over. Doesn't go over well. Be particularly attentive to wire transfers. This is another one of those 17% items that you should remember a week from now. First, they often represent major expenditures, which suggests that they should be easy to account for, but not so. History has shown that they seem to get forgotten more often than the run-of-the-mill transactions. That is one of the first places we look when we go in to do an audit and start comparing the reports to the bank records and things are off. It's almost a sure bet that one or more wire transfers got missed somewhere along the line. One technique that I've seen to help control this is to assign a check number series to your wire transfer, something that has nothing to do with the real checks, but just a control number. And that way you can periodically look, and if there are any gaps in the recorded numbers, you probably missed a wire transfer. See what your bank can do for you to help you control your operation. There are a number of services that may help with the management of your business. Payroll, electronic banking, remote deposit, record-keeping help, and lockbox services, just to mention a few. Everyone is using a computerized system of some type. And it's not only important that staff members who use the system be well trained in the software, because many computer problems, especially mine, occur between the keyboard and the chair. But it's also critical that the data be backed up. If the software vendor is hosting the data, make sure that the vendor backs it up regularly and that it is held in a secure place. If it's being kept locally, it's very important that the data be backed up often, could be as often as daily, and that the backup be kept off-site. The treasurer's sock drawer, if nothing else. Because the last thing you want to do is have the original data and the backup go up in the same fire. We in the audit division have heard the sad tale of the hard drive crash or the computer that was sold after the campaign that still had the data on it on more than one occasion. In fact, I think if I had $1 for every time we heard one of these stories, I could retire early. Now let's stop there and summarize a few key points. First, political committees face the same risk of theft as any other business. Second, we've seen a number of such cases over the last few election cycles, but most of those that have come to light are not very sophisticated and therefore easily prevented. Third, the Commission has prepared 2 documents to assist committees in establishing internal controls to help protect their assets: the Safe Harbor document and the Free Advice document, both available on the Commission's website. And finally, boiled down to the bare minimum, separate duties to avoid a situation where one person is in a position to take money and hide the theft. By the way, people who get involved in these cases are invariably folks the committee management trusts, or they wouldn't have access in the first place. And have someone who does not process transactions compare and review bank records, accounting records, and FEC reports to detect both simple errors and unauthorized transactions. Thanks for listening, and good luck to one and all.